So France are champions of the world, beating Croatia 4-2 in the process in what was a quite incredible World Cup final at this quite incredible World Cup tournament. It has been a staggering World Cup tournament. It was a staggering World Cup final, and this is a match review of the 2018 FIFA World Cup final in Russia, as France have beaten Croatia by 4-2 to be World Cup champions. And first and foremost, I want to say from everyone here at DJ Bagpuss, we'd like to congratulate France to say well done. France have been absolutely amazing. They are so good going forward and they thoroughly deserve being World Cup champions. I also want to give a special and kind of congratulations to Croatia, because they were brilliant in this final. We'll talk about it in just a moment, but you know, Croatia not only have done absolutely extraordinary well to get to the World Cup final, but they've done so well in the final despite losing by 4-2. This was a game where Croatia really put everything and anything into this game, and they, you know, put everything, they put their heart, their soul into this game. And if the first half had gone their way, it could have been a very, very different World Cup final. But overall, from the kind of the neutral point of view, the spectacle of the World Cup final this year was brilliant. And in previous years, the World Cup final hasn't really lived up to the hype. This game certainly lived up to the hype. But I have no idea how I'm going to review this match. I've actually written down bullet points, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I've got bullet points right there, because it was one of those games where so much went on, and there was so many things that happened in the game, and there were so many headlines that were written over the 90 minutes that it's really hard to kind of talk about just one single moment that kind of defined the game. So let's try and do this strategically. Let's go right back to the beginning and kind of, you know, review the game and give my thoughts and feelings, so general thoughts, general feelings, and my overall conclusion to what has been an absolutely amazing World Cup tournament. So France against Croatia, as I said in my preview this morning, I went with a 3-1 win to France. I thought it was going to be tight, I thought it was going to be close, I thought it was going to be congested. I thought Croatia actually were going to get the first goal, and they were actually going to, you know, cause France one or two kind of problems. Little did anybody know of just how well Croatia played, because in that first half and in kind of large portions in the second half, Croatia absolutely dominated the game. And they played so well against this France side. They battered this France side in stages. And, you know, they came flying out the blocks. They were pressing France really high up the field. And, you know, I was watching the game and just saying, you know, Croatia are dominating, and they deserve and they should get a goal to show for their domination, and it just wasn't happening. France kind of looked a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish, a little bit passive going forward in the opening exchanges of the game. They sort of were playing it sideways, and Mbappe couldn't really get into the game. Giroud was kind of losing the ball. I thought N'Golo Kante, who went off in the second half, had a really, really poor, just an overall kind of poor game, really. He kept losing the ball, he kept getting dispossessed, and, you know, you have to kind of praise the strength, the acceleration, the aggression that Croatia had, because they came flying out the blocks. They are the underdogs. You know, nobody expected them to win today. And, you know, for large portions of that first half and, you know, throughout the early moments of the second half, they did dominate. France did go a goal ahead. It came from a set piece, and it was, you know, kind of France's real first moment where they, you know, conjured up an attacking, you know, piece of play. Then Griezmann went down in the box. He then stepped up to take the set piece, and I said and turned to my dad and said, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes in the back of the net. And sure as shit, it went into the back of the net. Mario Mandzukic with an own goal, which for many of the England fans watching today, it's quite funny seeing the man who scored the winning goal in Croatia's semi-final win over England scoring an own goal in the World Cup final. But it was, as the kind of the ball went in, Griezmann hit it and Mandzukic just headed it back. I think actually probably the free kick was going in regardless of Mandzukic getting his head onto that, but he did get the final touch, and he did kind of divert the ball slightly, and because of that it means that it goes down as an own goal. I think it's one of the first times ever that there's been an own goal in a World Cup final. So France took the lead, and then Ivan Perišić equalised for Croatia on 28 minutes. I mean, you know, Croatia didn't deserve to be a goal down, and they got their just rules. They got the equaliser, and they got the goal that frankly they did deserve through Perišić. It was a lovely move. Perišić just chested down, and on the half volley he just smashed it and thrashed it into the back of the net. You know, Lloris had no chance at trying to stop that, and it was a really, really good finish by Perišić, who gave Croatia the equaliser. And at that point you're sitting there and you're sitting there and thinking to yourself, you know, they deserve that. even Stevens, France actually really shouldn't be ahead, and the fact that Croatia have got themselves that equaliser, they can kind of motor on and go ahead and try and get forward and really do something and really cause France further problems that they were already giving France. And then for the first time ever, we had a VAR decision, a very controversial moment, and you probably know what I'm talking about. The penalty that Anton Griezmann slotted in on 38 minutes. It was the challenge that was incited just before Griezmann slotted in that penalty. That was the most controversial moment and the first time ever that VAR has been implemented in a World Cup final. Now, VAR, I mean, everybody's been talking about VAR right from the first game with Russia against Saudi Arabia. Every single controversial moment has been surrounded by VAR, and some people think VAR is a blessing, some people think VAR is a curse, and personally, it's good because it means that really kind of controversial decisions can be looked at, and the referee can have time to look at it, and it's kind of really slowed down. He can see a precise pinpoint moment of that incident, and then he can make his decision from seeing that pinpoint information. And this came from a corner that France had, and as the corner was swept in, it fell down. I'm not sure who it was of the hand that it swiped, but it was one of the Croatian defenders, and as the ball went in, it went behind the Croatia player, but his hand moved, and his hand moved slightly, and he put the ball slightly moving it towards the bottom of the field. And when I looked at it originally, when they slowed it down, when I was watching the game, so watching it on telly, and when they slowed it down, in my eyes, and this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, I do think it was a penalty. I am sitting there and thinking that it was a penalty. Now, I have to, and I really want to stay and kind of state this point, right, that it is a very, very harsh decision, okay? It is a very, very harsh decision because it wasn't intentional. It was an accidental handball, in my opinion. I don't think the Croatia player meant to do that, okay? I really wish I knew his name, but I just cannot remember his name for the life of me. But, when you look at these decisions, A, I've seen those been given, and B, I can see why it was given. Because even though it may have been, unintentional, the hand moved the ball slightly down. It wasn't going to go into that direction if it didn't hit the Croatia player's hand. And that is why it was given as a penalty. Now, many people will argue that he didn't mean it, as it wasn't, an intentional penalty. It shouldn't have been given. And, if I'm being perfectly honest, the referee took about 3 or 4 minutes. He looked at it, then he went back to the field, and then he went back to have another look at it. He then went back, had another look at it again, and he kind of looked at it at least 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times before actually making his decision, which then in fuss became a penalty to France, which Griezmann slotted in. But, I have to stress that handball is it's a very kind of cagey area. And it is a very kind of hot topic, really. If it isn't intentional, it shouldn't be given. If the referee isn't sure, then he shouldn't give it. I mean, it's on probably the biggest game in world football, the World Cup final is. And to have, the responsibility of making that decision is a huge decision, really. But, the reason why I'm swung as why I think it is a penalty is because where the ball was going and where the ball ended up, because it touched the hand of the Croatian player, he changed and kind of manipulated where the ball was going to go. And because of that, that is why it was given as a penalty. And in my opinion, I believe that was the correct decision. And I think people have got to look at it and say, when you see it again, it's going to be played time and time again, because it certainly was the changing moment in the game. As that ball hit the Croatian player's hand, the ball changed slightly. He did manipulate where the ball was going to go, and because of that, it was given as a penalty. I don't think it was an intentional decision, but regardless of that, if you manipulate where the ball is going to go in the box and it touches your hand, it's a penalty, in my opinion, and that is just the opinion that I've got. I'd love to hear your opinions down in the comment section below. Do you guys think it was a penalty? The majority of people that I've seen on social media don't think it was a penalty, but there are people like me and people in the minority that do think it was a penalty, and it's one of those kind of moments where you can, agree to disagree, really. A lot of people are going to have different opinions, and nobody's right or wrong, really, but, I can see why it was given. Yes, it's a very, very harsh decision, but it was a penalty in my eyes, and Griezmann slotted it in. And when the second half got underway, again, Croatia were dominating for large spells, and I was thinking that Croatia are going to get the goal that they deserved. But, excuse me, at 2-1, France kind of didn't really kick on, but then in the 59th minute, there was a 10-minute spell where France stepped up the gears and scored 2 amazing goals, which sealed the deal. First one from Paul Pogba, which he was fortunate because the ball came back on the edge of the box. Pogba kind of, went for a shot, it blocked, it went, fell back to Pogba, who had another shot, and it just, Subasic had, no chance whatsoever in trying to save that. I mean, honestly, it was an absolute rocket from Paul Pogba, and, it was an absolutely, fabulous and sensational goal. He got a little bit fortunate because the first shot that he had was blocked, it then fell back to him kindly on the play, and all he had to do was just hit it with as much power, force, aggression, and accuracy as he could possibly get, and that was going to fly into the back of the net. And at 3-1, you're sitting there thinking it's probably game over, and then Kylian Mbappe scoring an absolutely wonderful goal, the star of the tournament, the first teenager to score in the World Cup final since Pele, and he's going to be probably the best player in the world. Generally he's going to be probably the best player in the world in the next couple of years. And at 4-1, it's game, set and match really. However, Croatia did have one final goal in this quite incredible World Cup final that came from Mandzukic, and it all came from an absolute howler by Hugo Lloris. What was he doing? What was he thinking? I do not know. He literally had the ball, and he thought he had all of the time and space in the world. And what happened was that he was almost like he was playing as a forward, running out, and then, he tried to pass it out. Mandzukic just tackled it off him and slid it into the back of the net. And, in a World Cup final as a goalkeeper, you get that ball, you kick it, and you hoof it right up the field. You don't, spend time, you don't hang around when you've got, a poignant attacker looking to expose you. I mean, Mandzukic just, tackled Lloris, and he goes into the back of the net, and it's 4-2. But despite that absolute howler from Hugo Lloris and Croatia playing very, very well, they just didn't have enough quality to find 2 more goals, and in the end, France, in the end, deserved to win the game. I mean, when we look at the stats, Croatia had 14 shots, but only 4 on target, so they needed to be more clinical. France had 7 shots, 6 on target, and they scored 4 of them. Croatia dominated the possession and had that first half. I mean, 2 of France's goals, 1 came from an own goal by Mandzukic, another came from a very controversial penalty. But in the end, France had a bit more quality than Croatia. I mean, you can have 14, 15, 20 shots, but you've got to be clinical. To only have 4 on target from 14 is frankly not good enough, particularly not at a World Cup final. You've got to give praise and respect and say that Croatia, for large parts of the game, were the better side. But in the end, France just have so much quality, and they are the kind of side that are just able to fashion in and get in an opening when they need to. And in my eyes, I've said from day one that I think this France side are going to go all the way, and in the end, even if France hadn't got those 2 goals, it would have gone to extra time. I mean, Croatia got 2 very well worked goals, as did France. Even if you take away the 2 goals that France scored in the first half, and it would have gone into extra time, France would have beaten Croatia in extra time and in penalties, in my opinion, because it was one of those moments where they just had they had far too much quality, and because of that, it just meant that France, in the end, got the win, and, over this whole tournament, they deserve to be champions of the world. So, yeah, that is my match review of the World Cup Final 2018 as France played Croatia. France, champions of the world. Congratulations, France. Commiserations, Croatia. But a runners-up spot in the FIFA World Cup Final 2018 is absolutely brilliant. And that is the final match review from my World Cup campaign of 2018. I will be doing an England video and also reacting to my 2018 World Cup predictions. Stay tuned for those 2 videos. Those are going to be the 2 there are going to be 2 more videos and the final 2 videos of this World Cup campaign. And, it's so hot in here. Literally, I'm absolutely sweating in this room, so I cannot wait to open up my window and turn on the fan. But if you've enjoyed the World Cup, and also enjoyed my World Cup content, and also enjoyed this match review, then please make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and check out my other great content as well. And until next time, DJ Bagpuss signing out. Take care, and I shall speak to you all later. Follow me on Twitter at DJ Bagpuss1998, and like I said, take care, and I shall speak to you all later. Take care, and I shall see you all soon.